Hello, everybody. What's up? You're listening to I Was Just Wondering with me, Tom Salmon, the show that dives into music, film, and games, and everything else in between. My guests on this week's show are the writer and director duo Josh Covitt and Michael Feld, behind the award-winning short film 40 Minutes Over Maui. We jumped into Josh and Michael's film festival experience and their collaborative writing process, and the challenges of making a short film set in a picturesque Hawaii holiday resort and filming it in a tiny hotel room in California in just 2 days. So, if you're running, stuck in a traffic jam, or sitting behind a desk at work, I hope you enjoy my interview with Josh and Michael. So you're on the short film festival circuit with your short film, 40 Minutes Over Maui. How's it going so far?
It's been an absolute pleasure and it's been a blast. This is the most exposure I think either of us have ever had to a film festival world. And going into it, you don't really know what to expect when you're submitting and you're checking out the festivals online and on Film Freeway. And then to be able to get there and to each festival and to see how different they are and the kind of people that show up that are in the audience and the kind of filmmakers that are there and the kind of people that run the festivals. It's really quite a rewarding experience after you've spent some time making the film, not only to be able to share it with people, but to be able to meet so many new people as well.
And in terms of where your film's played, does it tend to be more of the sort of comedic sort of like block of films that you sort of play against?
It's it's a bit random, honestly. And truthfully, there are fewer comedies in the short film world than dramas or other genres. And in fact, a few programmers have approached us and said, thank you for making this comedy that's very fun and easy to watch, because we get so many submissions that are very dark, brooding, non-comedic pieces. And as far as programming, that varies too. So Tribeca, what's great about them, we found, was all their shorts blocks, they put 5 to 7 shorts that are all linked. So that way, hey, if you like science fiction, you go see this block. If you like docs, you go see this block. So we were in just a comedy block, and they just basically, the only sort of thread they did was sort of from like lower stakes to higher stakes. So that was cool because we closed it, since ours is a potential missile strike, which is great. It's always nice to close it out. But some of the other festivals we've been at, it's been it's been up and down. We went to one festival where it was a great block, but we were right after a very depressing short documentary about a very important subject. But it's like the audience, you could feel their hearts just sunk, and then our film comes up. Yeah, and a few festivals recognize best comedy short, but with short films, a lot of the times they're just, hey, it's all short films. Enter at your own risk.
I mean, I do get the feeling from a few comedy short filmmakers that I've interviewed. One was Justin O'Neill Miller, who had a short film called Peggy, and another one was Monique Surgeon, who had Sorry Not Sorry. They tend to be very sort of crowd-pleasing films that they're sort of showing, but they do sort of struggle to get major film festival awards recognition.
It's like when we started going to festivals and seeing the kind of films that were winning awards, Josh and I never made the film with the intention of going out and winning awards. I think what we wanted is to really test the waters with an idea that we thought was funny, and to see how people reacted to a situation and to characters that we really thought was very funny. So for us, we've kind of learned really early that in a way us winning an award is the way people run up to us right after the screening and want to talk about their friends or their families that were in Hawaii when this event happened, or the way that we've seen people run up to Julie and Johnny, our cast, and just gush to them about their performances. So, it's kind of like, not to compare ourselves to the Oscars, but even on such a scale like that with something like Best Picture, so seldom do you see a comedy win something like Best Picture. And I think it's just people's initial reaction is to give an award to a more dramatic film. And we're really okay with that because, we're so happy to see people's reactions to it.
Yeah, and it's also right, and it's that thing, I think, that universally everyone knows, or they talk about it, where it's just like, comedy is underrated in that sense, where it's at Cordillera Film Festival, someone on the jury was telling me how they were like, or sorry, one of the panelists, they were saying how much they loved our film because it's so much harder to make people laugh. Versus he pointed out, he's like, dramas are great, but in his opinion, all you have to do is like show someone on screen you really like and then do horrible things to them, and then everyone will be sad.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to orchestrate laughter, and yeah, so that's the joy of this has really just been having people say how much they liked it, and also getting into these festivals is another just a nice little pat of encouragement, because it means more people will see the film, people will enjoy it, and we've had other festival programmers just solicit us, because a lot of programmers, they all know each other, they go to other festivals, so people will say, hey, I saw your film at this festival, we loved it, would you be willing to have us screen it at ours? And so later in the year there'll be some other festivals that Michael and I had never heard of, but you look them up and you're like, oh yeah, great, of course, we'd love to. We're definitely not in the, like, now that we were at Tribeca, we're doing that, and that's a whole film festival thing, but we're not about like hiding it from anyone. Like we want as many people to see it and enjoy it as possible.
I mean, just jumping on to, the last comedic picture, I Googled it before the interview, the last comedic picture that was Best Picture at the Oscars was Woody Allen's Annie Hall, and that was like 1977.
Or even like Life is Beautiful, but even that is like a father, comedically like putting on a play for his son when they're in a concentration camp.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of straight comedies.
Yeah, I even think back to something like how much Oscar buzz a film like Bridesmaids had, and even something to that caliber was still unable to break through. And for us, when you put this much time into making something, you got to think sometimes, what is your intention? And ours has never been to win awards. Ours has been to, really challenge ourselves and see if we could make something good and fun and make people laugh.
That's obviously sort of the center of our universe is comedy, even though we have other, like, we both really like some very dramatic or different styled films. But for Mike and I, we both are just like, you know what, as we keep growing and making more and more films, and hopefully some of these features we have ideas for, like, our goal is to make movies that people want to see and enjoy seeing and see again, because they're fun to watch. And that there's no shame in that. As much as we love non-comedies, but like, we have no shame in like, oh yeah, we just make people laugh.
I think where it sort of like sits, it's sort of, because it's humorous and it's seen as sort of like less serious, but I think, as you sort of spoke before, like, being sort of funny is the most serious thing you can do because it's so hard to do.
Well, even when you look at something like the basic concept of our film, which is two people that have to really question themselves in their relationships when they think that they might not have much time left to live. And I think that given that premise, so many people would immediately go to telling a story about two people who kind of turn on each other. And it's such an easy setup for a dramatic film. And for us, we really wanted to use a setup and a premise like that to tell a comedic film.
Right. And also threading that needle, not to spoil anything for people who haven't seen it, but I hope when people see it, they like, because the flip side of that is still keeping a comedy, but then making the people, going for the jokes of like, oh, I never liked you anyway. Like, and then well, we're going to die, so I'm just going to rattle off 15 things I hate about you.
Yeah.
So we knew that option was available to us, but we really worked hard to be like, okay, even though there is some teasing and some turns in the film, can we still show that like it's a couple that likes each other, that loves each other, and that the audience will like, without then going too far and making it super saccharine. Like we didn't want it to be so sappy, and I think that's something that we're proud of, is I think we were able to like walk that tightrope.
Spoke about it briefly. What was the creative spark that inspired you to set off on this journey towards writing and directing the short film?
This is Mike. My dad wrote the first draft of our script.
Right.
And he is a pretty prolific writer in terms of everything he turns out. And kind of when he sees an event in the news that can trigger an idea or spark an idea for him, he'll just write it. So he saw, this happen in the news, and him and my mom go to Hawaii for vacation. He kind of thought, like, what would it be like if he and my mom were in Hawaii when this happened, and sent me that script. Right. And just as like a funny, this is something I wrote, tell me what you think. And I loved the premise and I loved the idea, and I really thought it had a ton of potential to be something special.
What sort of shape was it in when your dad gave you the script? I mean, how much of it did you keep, or did you just keep the sort of like premise and characters, and then you came on and sort of rewrote together?
It was pretty much done, and then we just put Johnny and Julie in a room and then hit record. And came back 3 days later.
Yeah. The joke we say is the first script was, I think, 23 pages. So we tried to cut out about 10 pages of it. And we took out a lot of Donald Trump jokes because a lot of it was a character based on my dad just screaming to the heavens about how much he hates Donald Trump and how Donald Trump is blamed for all of this. And the funniest thing my dad did is, as creative as a guy as he is, he just doesn't seem to have it in him to find character names that are not real people in his life. So in the script, he didn't even change the names of the people in his version, where he calls his wife's best friend and tells her that, your husband's been cheating on you, and I've never liked you. Or he calls her mother-in-law and his mother-in-law, and he just used all the real names of the people in his life. Right. And so that was one of the things that when I got it, I was like, all right, I think we got to change some of this. And one of the funniest things he did is the name of Penny was first Estelle, who is a ex-girlfriend of mine. I know why you used that name, but I think we should change that.
Yeah, well, the name, as Mike's talking, I just had a funny realization that's where Mike is very good at naming characters.
I love it.
And now I'm like, that's where, right, you've gone the other way from your dad. Because when we write, I'll be like, I don't know, guy, man 1, woman 2, and Mike's he's got a list.
Like,
list of names ready.
His name is Javier.
Yeah, he's got he has a full.
This is what he orders when he goes to Starbucks.
Your child, you'll have a kid and you'll have 2 pages of baby names, and I'm the one that doesn't name the kid for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sure what they are. I don't know.
His name is Offspring.
Yeah, Child. We'll just name him Child.
Child 1 for 3
or
weeks.
Whatever, Child, and then. But yeah, so we tweaked that, and then script wise, we knew the actors we wanted, and once they were on board, we rehearsed with them a couple times and then changed some dialogue, based on rehearsals. Yeah, by the time we went to shoot, we felt like really confident about the script. It was really easy to actually get producers or other people sort of crewing up, because they would read the script and they're like, oh, this is great.
Curious, just in terms of your actual sort of day-to-day sort of collaboration in terms of the writing, does one of you sort of sit down and drive the keyboard, or do you both take cracks at writing a draft of the script?
In terms of writing, well, for Maui, we would sort of use some collaboration writing programs, and go back and forth writing, on the keyboard. Sometimes now as we're working on new things, we usually start in like a shared document where we can add stuff, and then. Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. Sometimes it's like, great, I'm gonna go take a pass on this. I'll send it back to you. Or sometimes we're writing in the room together. I think you want to have a mix, because for me, I don't know if I could get through like a very long process just doing it one way. And sometimes it's hard to both be in the same room at the same time. Which I think like as a duo, you get the advantage of like, okay, well, we can be working. Yeah. At separate times, and then when we're together, we can be very productive.
And was this the first writing collaboration you guys have worked on, or have you worked on sort of previous scripts before?
So Josh and I met about 6 years ago. We were playing on an adult kickball team, and Josh is heavily involved in the improv comedy community in Los Angeles. And I was taking classes at the school that he performs at. And we just kind of hit it off socially and stayed friends over the years. And when my dad sent me the script, he was just the first person that popped into my mind as someone who would be great to collaborate with on this. Right. So this was the first thing that we worked on. Josh, over the last couple of years, has spent a lot of time focused on acting and performing, and I've spent a lot of time over the past few years focused on documentary filmmaking. So it was kind of the shift and an adjustment for both of us. But I think, I've always said that like that shift has been something that I'm really happy I kind of altered the direction I was trying to go in terms of my creative output.
Yeah, and also the other funny or worth mentioning point is that I had never met Mike's father. Maybe I had a vague knowledge that he was involved creatively somehow, but I didn't know that he was a writer. So Mike says, my dad wrote this script, or my dad had this idea for a script, and I want to send it over to you. And immediately I was like, okay, all right, script. Like thinking, the generic, dad pitch. And then I opened the document, and it's like, it's a proper script, formatted, and was like, I kept thinking, like, a dad wrote this? I don't. and then when I saw Mike and said, like, oh yeah, it's great. Here's what I like. Like, I agree. This would be so fun to do. And then Mike, I asked him about his dad, and he goes, oh yeah. I'm sorry. I should have said my dad is a writer. My dad has like writing credits. And then it all made sense to me. But I thought it was even more of a miracle at first. The event was so catastrophic that it triggered a dad, your standards dad. Like, he was so moved. He's like, I'm going to buy a screenwriting software. I'm going to write a script.
I'm going to read Save the Cat.
The classics, yeah.
The dad just was so moved by the event that he put himself through film school in a month.
In terms of your writing process, does one person take more of a lead on overall sort of like structure, and then another person sort of like jumps in with dialogue sort of stuff?
Since Maui's the first thing that Josh and I have done together, it's kind of you experiment with what works best. And, we've been writing a lot recently. We have 2 other shorts that we're going to be filming soon, and a feature that we're working on. And I think that the thing that I'm realizing is the best way to go about it is I try not to be precious about who does what and who edits what and who writes what and who changes what, because Josh and I, we really have a shared common goal with the things we're working on, which is, to make it as best we can. And I think that one of the things that make Josh and I really good collaborators is we have a really good shared vision of what the idea is. So in that sense, like, sure, there's things that Josh and I disagree with, or lines of dialogue that we would interpret different ways, but we're able to pass the ball back and forth quite easily and not really establish rules with who has to do what and how they have to do it. So I think that makes it a lot easier. There are times that Josh I'll tell Josh that, oh yeah, that's good, that's great, that's a final locked version of that script, and then secretly I'll go through and change everything without him knowing in the middle of the night, and then send it back to him and be like, no, that's how you sent it to me.
Yeah. And then I'll do the same thing, and then we end up exactly the same thing. we both do so much extra superfluous, surreptitious work that lo and behold, it does nothing.
It just gets us back to point one.
Jumping into the sort of directing of the short film, I mean, could you talk to me a little bit about your working through your sort of creative process as a directing duo?
First of all, I think sort of with the writing and, having a partnership is great, because you can just cover more ground at once, right? So it's just, if nothing else, it's so much more efficient. It reminds me of this story. I have a friend who's a screenwriter, and he has twins, and this is just such a random story, but I was visiting him once when his twins were like 4 years old. We were hanging out. He's like, I got to put the kids in the bath. Puts them in the bath. We come, we're watching TV, talking for a little bit. And I'm like, wait, do you need to watch your kids? And he's like, no. He's like, they'll make sure, one will make sure the other doesn't drown. Like, and then just did this short little speech about like, having twins is the best thing in the world. Like, they're each other's best friends. You don't have to entertain them because they'll do it. He's like, I don't know how anyone just has one kid. Right. And I sort of feel like that when on set, where like I've directed like sketch stuff before, but man, when you have someone that you see eye to eye with, it's great because you can one of us can be talking to camera or another department while the other is dealing with the actors or, tweaking other notes. So you're getting twice as much done. And then I know for me, having an acting background, and having been on set as an actor so often and good and bad sets, I think it's like I have no problem talking to actors. Like I know the language. I have no fear of them, of the delicate, strange creatures they are. And just on that note, for me, talking about when I communicate with actors, I think one of the things that a lot of directors don't understand because they're not actors is they don't understand what a weird thing it is. Right. Aside from like giving directions or emotional things, one of the best things you can do to for an actor is say, like, this is the shot we're doing and this is what I'm intending to get right here, so that the actor actually knows the parameters. And I think most directors don't think that actors want to know any logistical stuff. But if you just say like, hey, so this is the moment when this is happening, and really it's really wide, so you can go as large as you want. We're going to see everything. Feel free to do this or that, but we're only going to run up like literally just the most boring logistical stuff is actually super helpful for an actor, because as an actor, not the only thing, but one of the most important things to know is you're like, what the hell is happening right now? Right. Like, cause you've done all your work, but like you're looking over and no one's telling you what the camera's focused on or what we're trying to get with the scene. So I know for me, that's one thing of the process that I'm always taking care of for the actors. Okay.
I think that Josh and I really had such a strong shared vision with what we wanted out of this film before we went into production. And we really worked hard to make sure we were on the same page with so many aspects of it. So again, it was never like we would do a setup and Josh, you were the one who talks to the actors, and Michael, you were the one who talks to the camera department, or Josh, you were the one who talks to the producers, and Michael, you go talk to the actors. We never really had set rules and lines drawn about what each other's job was to do. We just knew we were on the same page. So after we would do a take, or when we would need to go talk to the different departments, we just made sure we were on the same page, and then we just went and did it. And it always worked out to our benefit, because I think we made it such a priority to be on the same page with what we wanted overall. And Josh also made sure I didn't drown in any bathtubs.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
No one drowned. We entertained ourselves. Yeah. And there was never any undercutting on production, because we got that out of our system in the writing process, as we detailed. That's when we cheat and change each other and undercut each other. So that when we're on set, no one's going to someone else and being like, don't listen to what Mike said there. Just do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's as much as like, when we were directing this, it felt really good to be working with Josh and to be collaborating with him. One of the things that really stuck out to me was our script supervisor asked how long Josh and I had been working together. And she said, it really seems like you guys have been doing this together for a long time. When in reality, this is the first thing we had done together. So I feel like it naturally, we had a great, our chemistry just came through.
Because I imagine that's, like 90% of the sort of like battle, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is that, Michael and I, we're not necessarily have like deep dives into technical elements of film, which I think makes it, it's like another positive for our crew or say like for our cinematographer, right? Where we're not, our job is sort of the overarching story and making sure everyone's on the same page, and not to micromanage, like say a very talented DP and tell him like, oh, we want this and that. Like we can give him the angle, but I think at least when we were shooting, it felt like people enjoyed the sort of freedom we gave them, as opposed to being super overbearing, and we would have opinions, and we would knock down some things or alter others. But I also think it's another nice thing for people that work with us is like, okay, we're not gonna like be over their shoulder fiddling with everything and telling them like that way we can get quality crew members, and they know that like they get to be creative as well, and we're not gonna step on their creativity. That we're more just like wanting everyone to succeed in their own lanes.
We did a really good job of surrounding ourselves with remarkably talented people for this. A lot of that credit goes to our producers, Brent and Nick. But, from the production design to the sound mixing to the way it was shot, I think we realized pretty quickly that the people around us really knew what we were doing, and we didn't have to worry about those aspects of the job, and we could really focus on the things that we were excited about, which was getting the performances we wanted and just kind of setting the tone for the type of set that we wanted.
And keeping stress low. Mike has a lot of Mike's film school friends were either involved or would stop by the production, and the joke was that on the call sheet they would put Mike as good vibes technician because he's got such an easygoing manner. And we tried to keep that throughout because the stressful thing about directing is I liken directing to it's like 100 people want a million answers from you on every little thing before you film. They want you to tell them what to do or how it's going to be done, and then on the day they come back to you and say it can't be done the way you wanted it to be done. So you have to figure out on the spot, how to get it done. And the trick is creative problem solving without turning into a tyrant and making everyone on set feel very tense and awful. And that was huge for us to be like, all right, great. This is fun. We're all having fun. And any problems, we'll just figure them out on the fly.
I mean, I just wonder, in terms of your primary location, it's set in a hotel room. What were some of the challenges that you encountered, being in that hotel room with the actors and getting the angles and the setups from that?
We had to get creative a little bit, and we had 2 cameras available, but I think initially we both thought, well, we can probably run 2 cameras the whole time, and that way we'll catch any improvs. But really, some angles, it just didn't work. So we got 2 cameras for some nice shots, that really helped in the edit. But then a lot of times, you had to get creative with angles. The other thing was our video village was so there's like a hallway, most of it's sort of in the bedroom, and then there's this hallway that leads to the door that you can't see. And there's a bathroom. And in order to save time, we never moved Video Village from that bathroom. Right. So even in the first 2 minutes of the movie, there's a bit where Johnny, who plays Larry, is in the bathroom speaking, popping in and out, talking to Penny. So he's in the bathroom. There's there's a flag, a C-stand with flags behind him. And then Mike and I are sitting on one Apple box staring at the monitors, but we just lived in that bathroom the whole time. Yeah. And so that was definitely one of the tricks, because it's the whole shoot we pretty much had to watch on monitor, which is not, the worst thing, because that's how you're going to see it. You're seeing what it's being captured. But really, I don't think we were able to watch anything just with our own eyes. And we were huddled together in this bathroom, not, decent sized bathroom.
Yeah. I think that with something, when you're dealing with one location like that, it's both a blessing and a curse. And it's a blessing because we didn't have to do company moves, and we were there for 2 days, so our gear got to stay still, and we saved some time in the logistical side of things. But I think the hard thing that you come up against with something like this is, how do you keep one location interesting for an entire piece? And going into it, the way that, I don't know if we ever necessarily talked about it, but the way that I always thought about the script was looking at it in terms of like a play, and the way that with a set that you're able to move the action and the characters around the room and really kind of take the piece all over the geography of the room to keep it interesting. What happens in the hallway, what happens on the floor, what happens in the bed, and just to kind of keep it moving around so it feels like you're not just trapped in one room with 4 walls, because at the end of the day, that is our set.
Yeah, right. You have to make it the world feel bigger than it actually is, because it truly is a bedroom.
I was part of a crew that shot in a hotel room in New Jersey, and one of the things that cropped up for that particular production was the heat in the hotel room. It just got really, really, really hot, and I wondered if that was a particular issue on your set with having that many bodies in a room with the equipment and the lights.
Oh yeah, a little bit. It was definitely okay. Cut, AC on.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, set up for the next, take or whatever. Put the AC back on, and then and I think we did right. We didn't have to lose any takes because we forgot to turn the AC. That was a concern. Like, okay, just make sure we turn it off because we don't want to ruin the sound with the hum of the AC.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. It could get a little toasty. The good news was a lot of times though we could crack a window, depending on the angle.
One of the other things too, looking back on the actual production, is I think pretty early on when we were shooting, Josh and I set a tone with the crew and the cast that once we got a take that we liked, we were confident to move on.
Right.
So we weren't, really doing more than a handful of takes.
Okay.
I think first and foremost because our actors' performances were so solid, but we just never felt the need to keep beating it into the ground and doing take after take after take to try to get to a deeper level.
Right.
So when you're kind of moving with a flow like that, where you're just kind of like, you've got it, we're moving on now, it helps to not keep things stagnant, and it helps for people to be sitting in the same place wondering, what's going on, how long are they going to be doing this? So it felt like there was also like an energy about the flow of things where we were kind of like getting it and moving on to the next thing.
And just sort of jumping into the performances with Johnny Ray Meeks and Julie Brister, who play Larry and Penny, the married couple at the centre of the film. How do you go about casting them?
So Johnny and Julie are two people we've known for a while because they're performers and teachers at the Upright Citizens Brigade here in Los Angeles. And I've had them as teachers of mine, and have known them outside of the theater a little bit, and just we knew they were great people, great actors, and we sent them out just sort of straight offer. We were prepared to audition if we needed to, but our hope was that, which is why we made sure we got the script in a really good place beforehand. And that was good too. Also, again, like with the background as an actor, I remember we were talking about it and we knew that there were tweaks to be made, but we hit a point with the script where I was like, okay, as an actor, if someone sent me this script and said like this really fun idea, two-hander, I would like you to be the role of this person. And we were very conscious where it's like, okay, it's not one or the other's story. It's a legit partnership.
Yeah.
That if you got that script as an actor, you'd be like, oh, this is great. And yeah, thankfully it worked out like that. They were both super into the script. We knew that they don't have any shows together, but they've known each other. We knew they could play as a couple. Yeah. And then the best part was sort of taking them out to lunch when they were both on board. And then I remember, or Mike, do you want to tell us, do you like the story about the Kickstarter?
Oh yeah. So we took them to lunch just so we could kind of tell them about they had both agreed to be in it, and we wanted to take them to lunch so they could meet, because Josh knew them a lot better than they knew me, and we could just give them the rundown about what we were trying to do, what we were looking for, and just to get to know them. And one of the questions that I believe Julie asked was, so do you guys have like a Kickstarter for this, and are you going to go try to find money to make it? And we just were able to tell her, like, oh, no. Like, this is happening. We have the money. We're ready to go. And, I think they were just really relieved because they're such generous people when it comes to collaborating with people who are just trying to get things made. And we've both seen Johnny and Julie in so many people's Funny or Die videos and sketches and YouTube videos. Like, they're to help people do anything. But so often, sometimes you talk to someone about your idea, and then it's like there's a couple caveats. It's like, but we got to go find the money. We got to find once you try.
Right.
And so we
got to shoot it. We're gonna get in a van and we're gonna drive 4 hours away. Like it's gonna be they were all on board, and I'm sure they were like, what's the catch?
Yeah. And they were able to breathe a sigh of relief because they're like, no, we're like, we're ready to go. This is gonna happen.
Yeah, this is gonna be a real film.
And I think that I really remember that talk, is that especially when we see them at film festivals, or when Julie tells us that she's considering meeting us, in another city to go to the festival with us, because they've stayed involved in the film, even after production. Right. So it's great that it's become, as much as this is Josh and Mai's baby, it's great that it's become something that means so much to the other people that were involved too.
I just wondered how much you both felt more comfortable with, about how much improvisation was there allowed on set in terms of what you'd kind of written?
You know, we kind of went into it with the intention of letting them improvise and letting them play around. They improvised quite a bit while we were rehearsing, and off of the improv that they did in the rehearsals, we adjusted the script, we added some jokes, we changed things around. And then when we got to set, we were ready to let them do that. And we let them improvise a little bit on the first couple setups we had. And then just logistically speaking, we realized pretty quickly we didn't, unfortunately, have that much time just mess around like that and just let them do takes where they could go a bit wild. Now, that doesn't mean we told them, like, you have to do it exactly to the page. But the first couple times they did it, there were some pretty wild runs that they went on, and I think we looked at the clock and realized, like, we're gonna be at lunch in a couple hours. We can't really be messing around too much, and I think they understood.
And they also liked. I mean, the thing as an actor, and especially an improviser, is like, if you don't like the material or trust the directors, you're more apt to just wander off into improv and like the well-intentioned thing of like, well, I can fix this, right? And it was a compliment, without even being discussed. It was definitely like this. Mike and I and Julie and Johnny, we all enjoyed working together, and we were complimenting each other, and they were giving us sort of the great compliment of like, yeah, we don't need to screw around with this too much. There's a great, I don't know if Amy Poehler is the originator of this quote, but I saw her say this at a talk back once, and she's like, yeah, sometimes with improv, you get a take that's twice as long and half as funny. So like, feel free to play around. And we never said, no, you can't. But also they were never like, it's not working, I'm just going to go off script and make it work. And to go to Mike's point earlier in our writing process, where we're not super precious, that was the other thing where, occasionally we thought we had something and it worked in rehearsal. And then we were just on the day and we're looking at the monitor and we're like, that one bit's not hitting, or even just that word is not right. So it was no big deal. We just walk out, talk to the actors. We're like, all right, well, that's just not, what do you guys think about that? Like, how would you say that? And we would, not a ton, but sometimes we would just take a couple minutes and just tweak something on the fly and then be like, great, that's great. Knowing that, again, that's the thing too, of not being precious, and also coming from an acting background where it's like, well, if the actor can't say the word, or it just feels inconsistent, then just change it. Like, it's not, it's not, it's not Shakespeare. Or even if it was, like, Shakespeare would invent words when there were no words that he could. So, it's, I think that's the funny thing also, again, as an actor, you'll hear a lot from like auditions or cast director where they're like, never change the dialogue. They pour over it, and maybe there's a place for that. But I think on the day you have to be like, you know what, it's not working. Let's just tweak it and collaborate. And then, Mike and I are both obviously very happy with the final product. There's no days when we're like, oh man, I wish we hadn't changed that one word.
So did you shoot on location in Maui, and what was the kind of toughest scene to shoot, and why?
So unfortunately, we were not able to shoot it on location. Not only that, this has been a part of our lives for about 18 months. And in that 18 months, we haven't even been able to go to Hawaii once. I kind of have an ideal situation where once our festival run is done, we'll be able to go to Hawaii for vacation and really soak in all, like, how much the state of Hawaii has been a part of our lives for the last year and a half. We knew that with a good production designer and the right room, we could sell it. And because the film starts with one of our characters out on a balcony looking out at the ocean, it was important that we found a balcony like that, looking out at a landscape that could feel like Maui. And we found that in Oxnard, California, which is about an hour and a half north of Los Angeles. And so we filmed the exterior up there, and then what we just needed was a hotel room in Los Angeles that had a balcony. Right. And we could just see light coming in from the balcony, and that's all we needed. And with that, we were able to find the Westin in Pasadena, who could not have been more generous and accommodating to us shooting, to the point where they didn't even charge us a production fee. They just asked us to pay for the rooms that we were using. And truthfully, they let us run amok of floor of the hotel that we were shooting on. But they were great. So, and then, a huge part of that is our production designer, Alex Nell, came in, and the day that we were prepping the room, she had so many different versions of what the hotel room would look like prepared. And we just tried so many different things, to the point where, that's a really tricky thing with a film like this when you're not going to shoot it on location, because if from the jump and from the get-go it does not look and feel like Hawaii, then you lost the audience. And no one has ever questioned it. So the audience is able to really just like be in that moment and be there, because Alex did such a great job of making you feel like you were in Hawaii.
Yeah. There's only one person after LA Shorts who knew. He came up afterwards and congratulated us, and then was like, "Hey, did you shoot that at," and he named the like specific place in Oxnard, like the actual, like not just that, it's Embassy Suites, but the whatever village, like he named these specific. We were like, yeah, he's like, my parents lived, he's like, I used to jog up and down the beach. He's like, I know that skyline, but everyone else has felt that way. And truth be told, it's definitely an optical illusion, or additionally in that, like, the room is probably even more Hawaiian than an actual Hawaii hotel room is, because typically in Hawaii, we were doing research on that. The rooms are nice, but the allure is the lush, beautiful landscape outside. Yeah. So the rooms are basic in Hawaii, but we're like, well, we can't show outside, so let's just really dress the hell out of this room.
Yeah. And that was something that I watched the film 2 days ago, and I was looking at all the props and the set decoration, and I was like, it really makes you just subconsciously reminds you that this is the world you're in, because of the colors and because of the tone and because of the, some of the plants that are in the room. So, we poured over images of what hotel rooms in Hawaii look like. And, like Josh was saying, truth be told, they look like hotel rooms in most other places, because most of those hotels are Hyatts and chains, but we really wanted to keep reminding the audience this is the world that we're in.
And just speaking of props, there's one particular scene, I don't want to give any too much spoilers away, but when the two characters go to town on the minibar and junk food, I just wondered from a practical standpoint, how much chocolate and crisps did the two actors manage to get through, or was that sort of like a one-er?
Yeah, we basically had it all set, and then we had extra food too on hand, and we timed it where that was the end of our first day, and we wanted to close with that chaos and then walk away, and then we'll just have the room trashed for the beginning of day 2, and we could do the next bit. So we just said, we told our DP, just like, follow, like, look, we don't have this boarded out. We're just going to let, like, Johnny and Julie, we're going to direct you to, like, go into different stuff, and then on the fly, we'll be like, oh, that's good. Get a close up of the weird purple. What were those? Purple turnip cakes?
Like yam cakes.
Purple yam cakes. Yeah. Alex, again, our production designer, she just bought everything, and we were like, yeah, anything that's Hawaiian, definitely get, like, we're like, we want Mauna Loa macadamias. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So we have that, and then actually a lot of the snacks too. I know. I'm speaking for myself, but Mike was in on it too. I think, like, I'd be like, I want to try that, so I'd take a bite out of something and then throw some garbage on the floor. Yeah. And there were some crew members that were like, can I just eat some chocolate? We're like, yeah, have some Toblerone. Anyone who was willing to, like, actors got first crack at everything. Right. Like, we wanted to make sure we saved that, so they got to open everything. We'd get it on camera. But yeah, if anyone else wants to try some of these amenities, go for it. And yeah, the floor was there was a lot of gummies
stuck to the floor.
Yeah, stuck to the floor. That was probably the most perilous thing, where we're like, okay, we just got to make sure there's nothing that we're driving into the carpet.
So I just wondered in terms of in post-production, when you were working with your editor, Jack Price, did anything sort of surprise you when you were looking over the footage? And how much in the edit did the overall film change from what you had on the page?
That's an interesting question. I think... So the funniest part about working with Jack is Jack has been my roommate for 9 years. Right. And this is the second film Jack has cut with me, and he's a fantastic editor. But what Jack is so good at is, we knew the story was there, and Jack was so good at reminding us to use the takes that don't make Penny seem like the nagging wife, or make Larry come off like a doofus or an idiot, and really keep that chemistry between them. And really kind of, I think Jack really helped remind us how important it was to stay on our characters' sides. Jack is just so good with like finding characters' motivations through the editing process, and finding the things that really will make the audience relate to them.
Yeah, and he's on that note too. He's very good at he won't sacrifice the character for a joke.
Right.
Like, he won't sell out, and we were also on that same page. So there were a few moments where we would, there were a couple jokes we cut that were absolutely funny. Made us laugh every time. We knew you could sort of force a laugh out of the audience with it, but then at the end of the day we realized it's either forced, or it makes our characters shade too far in one way or the other. And that, Jack was great. And there was nothing really, it was a great, I remember telling Mike after we shot, I was like, this feels like the first thing I've been on where we didn't go home and been like, oh no, we didn't get a shot of, or even in the edit where it's like, oh, damn it, why don't we have an insert of, so there was nothing like that. It was more of okay, I feel like we got it. We got the performance we want. We got the angle we want. Yeah, it was overall great.
I just had one more question to sort of wrap up, and it was just basically to do how you sort of both felt what was the one sort of technical or directorial sort of skill you felt you improved upon working on 40 Minutes Over Maui that you'll be taking on to your next project. I'm assuming you're going to be working on more projects together.
Yeah, are we, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope so.
No, that was fun. I got nervous. I don't want to be broken up with live.
Yeah, live. Yeah, that would be it'd be shocking.
But then what a
way to end.
Yeah, dramatic twist. When you post this, listen all the way through.
It's a surprise.
Listen to a directing duo fall apart.
Yeah.
So in terms of what we gained technically in terms of directing from this, I would say for me, I went to the University of Southern California for my master's degree in film production and in directing. And while there, I focused a bit more on documentary filmmaking, even though I always did want to do more fiction and narrative filmmaking. And this has been my first narrative piece in quite some time. And I think the thing that I really took from this experience was, when you really have a set vision and you believe in it and you stick to it, you can really get a lot out of it. And I think I was always a bit afraid of doing this kind of directing and filmmaking with so many moving pieces around. And once we were on the set and there were 30 people around us, I was able to really feel comfortable in that environment. Right. So I think going forward, that's really the thing I've taken mostly from it, is the confidence in being able to do something of this caliber.
For me, one thing that was great, it was sort of an education, but it's sort of implied as the working together as a duo. But like we've said, it was so seamless. So that's, it's a good thing where I don't think we really are coming out of this okay, notes on the next time we work together, to actually have a good time. So that's baked into it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is, born and raised in Southern California. I'm a very laid back, easygoing person. And and as like an improviser and a collaborator, I'll often go with more of like, hey, whatever you guys want, like, we're all creatives and things like that. And so then the thing that I realized, directing, especially, when the production's bigger and you're on a schedule, not that I'm ever someone that's like, yeah, whatever, we'll just wander aimlessly through the woods, but getting better at and I think Mike and I both growing in this of like being firm while still gentle and not stifling anyone's creative process. Like for an example is like on the first day, there were a couple setups where our DP, who's amazing, set up an angle, and both Mike and I knew that as beautiful as it was not right for the storytelling aspect.
Right.
You would still fire off a couple takes, and but then have a little huddle and be like, well, we know we're not gonna use them. Right? So we were more like worried about like hurting feelings or stifling someone's creativity. And then as even just over the 2 days of the production and from our experience, remembering actually that, as long as you explain why you're not doing it, and make it a conversation, but also like gently remind everyone that, well, you're the director and, the buck stops with you. Yeah. That no one, if they're, you're working with professionals, no one is going to be pouty and everything like that. And actually they respect you more if you say, here's why we're not going to do that. Or just like how everyone likes, like when Mike and I would say, great, we got it, let's move on, and not waste everyone's time with a few more takes. Yeah. So from crew down to the actors, when you come out and you're very generous, but you're very specific while still being generous and friendly. I think that was something for me because I'm often, that's why I was an actor. I'm such like a people pleaser. Right. But realize as the director, it's more important that everyone's like, oh yeah, Josh and Mike know what they want. And if it's not there, they'll adjust us, and we make our day in time. And at the end that's what makes everyone happy at the end of the day. Yeah. Like they would much rather go home feeling like they got their work done, other than like, yeah, we got nothing done, but they were super nice and let us did whatever we wanted.
So there you have it. I had a great time chatting with Josh and Michael. Please do like and subscribe to the show on SoundCloud and YouTube, and drop a comment or two. And you can get in touch with me at the Salmoning01 on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Tom, and I'll catch up with you next episode.